In the previous lesson, we learned how to make something collidable using Box Collider 2D and our little script over here, but we didn't really make it so it could change. Right now we only have one function that does a debug.log, and that's all it does at the moment. What we're going to do in this lesson is we are going to create a chess that is going to use the collidable function to give the player some pesos. Okay, so in order to do this, we're going to start by needing some chess. So I'm going to open up the atlas once again, go under the sprite editor and just crop some chess really quickly. I'll use two of them. So this one over here that's open and empty, that's going to be chess. This is actually going to be chess 1. Make sure it's 16 by 16, and this one just beneath it is going to be chess 0. Here we go. Let's hit apply. We now have these two new sprites in our collection. I'm going to go ahead and find the chess 0 and drag it somewhere in the scene. So it is right here behind my actual game. I'm going to have to go under the sprite renderer and give it a layer. So I'm going to add a sorting wall. This is going to be interactable. And let's make sure my chess is in that sorting layer. We'll now be able to see it over here. I'll reduce the size to something like 0.75 on both axes, and we now have this thing. Alright, now the question is, how do we use this collidable script and turn it into something useful for the chess? Well, first up, let's make sure that this chess has a Box Collider 2D. As you can tell, they mention it down here. There is no Box Collider 2D attached to the chess 0 object, so we're gonna actually give it one, and as you can tell, we now have a Collider 2D. Now our very next step is going to turn this, what you see over here in the console, so the player 0 call, into the grant peso call. To do this, what we're going to be using is called Inheritance, and it is a concept in programming that is pretty much everywhere in high-level languages such as C# and even C++. What we're going to do is actually get rid of the collidable script. So remove component. Now we're going to head over to the script folder, create a new C# script, call it chess, and we're going to open that one up. Now at the very top here, you might be wondering what is this over here, the mono behavior that we see all the time. Well, mono behavior is something that we inherit from, meaning that your chess, even though it looks like there is nothing in the class right now, we still have access to a couple of things. As you can tell, first off, we have the private void update we can use, we have the private void start, and anywhere you are in that object, you still have access to things such as transform, collider, even rigid body. I think this one is deprecated, but as you can tell, we still have access to all those things, including get component. Now, these are not something native in C#. Those are not something native in the code, in the language we're using. It is something that Unity gives us through mono behavior. And now let me tell you a little bit of a secret. If you double click on mono behavior and you press F12, you'll be able to see what's inside of it. So every time you actually create a class that inherits from mono behavior, you also inherit from cancel invoke, stop coroutine, start coroutine, all that kind of stuff, but you also inherit from behavior because mono behavior inherits from behavior, so you also get this one. What's inside of it? Enabled is active and enabled. You have function you can call on your object, but you also inherit from component. This one, of course, has all these things we just mentioned, so every single object you create under mono behavior have all these things, and that's a bunch of things you can call. So they also inherit from object, and object is the final one, but you're going to see function we use such as destroy, don't destroy on load, instantiate, all that kind of stuff, and also some override over here. So we have all of that in chess. At the moment it doesn't look like it, but chess has all of these functions, and that is because it inherits from mono behavior. Now what we're going to do here is we're going to add a layer on top of that. You saw how we have mono behavior, and beneath that there is a behavior, then component, then object. Well, we're going to add our own layer. We're going to add collidable. Right, so how does that work? Chess now inherits from collidable, and collidable inherits from mono behavior. So we still have the same exact thing as we had in the past, but we include all of this on top. Let me give you exactly an example of what this does. If we go back on our chess, as you can tell, there is nothing on there, there is no collidable. We're going to add our very new script, which is, it's pretty much empty, as you can tell. It's just this, but it inherits from collidable. What happens if we actually go on top? The same exact thing as if we had the collidable. So you can think of it as some kind of copy-paste of what we had in collidable, and we just put it inside of chess. There is some neat thing, very nice things you can do with this, and it is the fact that you can change some function that collidable has, because we made them virtual. Virtual means they are defined, they are there, but you have the opportunity to change them. You have the opportunity to override them, and this is exactly what we're going to do right now. So we're trying to change this bit of code for something like grant pesos. Right, so what we're going to do is head over to the chess and type in the exact same security type. So right here was protected. We're going to say protected, and instead of doing virtual, we will do a override. As you can tell, they are actually recommending it to me. So we can override start, we can override update, and we can also override on collide. Right here, we will want on collide. So let's make sure we include that one. Now, they're going to give you something called base on collide, which means you'll be able to call the one from your parent. You'll be able to call the one from collidable. If we leave this in there, same thing happens. You're going to see that it still calls the name of the player, player 0. Now, if we go back and remove this, just leave this as the empty function, it is still going to call the function, however, there is nothing in it. So we totally destroyed the one in collidable. We didn't really destroy it, but we are not running the one in collidable anymore. We're running the one in chess, and the one in chess is empty. We could call the one from collidable if we decide to call it using base, just like you saw over here. Now, we do not want that. Here we want to give the player some pesos, and unfortunately we haven't created the code around that, so we'll just say grant pesos. Let's have a look what this does in the game. And here you go. So we totally change this, what we received over here before, so the name of the player, to this, grant pesos. These two things, they both use the code behind collidable.cs, but they have different behavior. And this is the power of inheritance. And there is a lot more thing you can do with inheritance, but this is the main big thing that you'll want to do with it. So we'll be using it quite a lot. And if you did not really understand this concept, I really recommend that you go watch the video in the resources. There's another additional video you can watch. It's on my YouTube channel right now, but it is something that might help you understand a little bit better. It is something you'll want to use in video game. In any video games you're making, this is something that is really, really useful. Alright guys, I will catch you in the next lesson.